Hi, I'm Chris from Airwindows, and I was going to have the revisit of the Not Just Another Dither done today, and I don't because I ran into some problems getting it together. As of now, I've got the AU working perfectly for the new version of it, but I don't have the VST. But that's okay because I had something that I could put up anyhow, which is a different plugin. Also, I get distracted doing things like watching millennials listen to Close to the Edge for the first time, which is awesome. But that aside, let's talk about plugins. Today, I've got something called BrightAmbience. And basically, I can show you what that's about by playing it on this little synthesizer thing in here. BrightAmbience does this. It's this really unusual form of basically cluster echo, and you can use it to make this, again, very bright chambery sound. It's not an efficient way of doing it, but it is very good at what it does. Or you can get even crazier and do basically a gated thing. And the best way I can show that is I can put on some drums here, get rid of this loop, and this is also BrightAmbience. See, the raw drums sound like this, and then if you put this crazy ambience on, there's a dry wet. This is an older plugin, so it's exactly as it existed before. You can get this effect happening, or an exaggerated version, or you can use the sustain control, which will clean up, like it's going to munch CPU fairly hard at this full sustain. It's also doing it, it's not sample rate aware, so if you're doing it at a really high speed, you'll have less of a delay, but it also has a sort of nasty high frequency tiz right up around the sampling frequency. So what we've got here is this sort of crazy gated reverb kind of sound. We can use smaller amounts of sustain to have it just thicken up impacts. In a weird and characteristic way. You might very well find use for this somewhere. Again, this is this project is running at 96K, which I generally advocate these days. I think it's better to run at high sample rates because you get such wonderful advantage with aliasing. But you can use it to sort of widen out sounds like this. Like, this is fairly close to just dry, but it's a little weird. And then as we keep expanding the window that it's doing this in, we get a extended decay thing. And yeah, you can use this on any signal that you want, any crazy sound effect like and you can extend the sustain out and then use the decay to mute the tail end echoes rather than leaving them at full volume, and that makes a chambery sound. And you might want to control it in such a way where, because at full crank, it's going to eat more CPU this way. So if you restrain it a little bit and then put decay on, you get this slight ambience going on. And again, it's bright ambience. It's a very, very bright ambience. It's making the highs kind of all sparkly and glittery. And again, if you're running that at 44.1K, it's going to have a weird overtone up around the threshold of hearing. It doesn't sound natural. It's bright. It's excessively bright. So let's play with things some more too. Like here's the snare sample. And the raw snare sample sounds like this, but we can also change the tonality and brighten it up. And again, this is just manipulating the sound in interesting ways. Let's see what we can do with something like that. A guitar. That's pretty aggressive. So, we can bring some of the dry in. And it's a weird sound. It's an interesting weird sound that you can use. And it'll also... we can do crazy things with this guitar sound also by using very little sustain and a lot of wet. And that'll give you a kind of weirdly chorusy, flangey kind of thing. Because this is a lot of delays that are very closely packed. And with no decay, it's basically like a gated reverb. It's full volume until there's nothing, which is a completely artificial sound. And then we can blend that with a little dry for a real crunchy quality. And then throw in a little bit of decay to make it more natural again. Off, you got this. Turn on bright ambience, and you get this. Which is almost like, it's almost like your sort of Randy Rhoads tone of putting an amp in a hallway, having just a lot of bright, close echoes. So there might be all kinds of uses for this one. It is one of those things where my hope is that it's going to come in handy for people. That is the idea anyhow. And I am working on... I'm working on a lot of things. Here, let me go back to my regular view. So I'm working on a lot of things at the moment. I have hopes of being able to upgrade my computer in the near future. As you can see, I'm trying to learn how to use the autofocus of the camera and teaching it how to use that properly. I'm fooling with new microphones, and I'm also fooling with some interesting things having to do with theory studies in tempo, and I'm also looking into something interesting lyric-wise, although I'm pretty far away from doing anything useful with that. Tempo-wise, I've been developing a concept, and I'll do an Airwindows post on that and probably also put it on the Patreon. It'll be public on the Patreon, but I'll put it on the Patreon when I've got it finished, where there seem to me to be certain zones of tempo that are stable feeling. They feel solid. They feel, like Dobie Gray Driftaway or something like that, where it's exactly the right tempo and it just flows. And then there are some tempos that just always feel as if there's too much energy and they're about to go bursting out in every direction. And these zones seem to recur over and over again across different tempos. It's not all just like, okay, around 120 it's stable, and then around 140, like 150, if I'm remembering correctly, yeah. Yeah, like close to 150 is one of those stable zones, and you can set something at that tempo, and it'll feel real smooth at that speed. You can go as fast as like 170 or 194 and get a nice, solid, stable, balanced feeling tempo. Or you can pick something that's slower, like say 159, for instance, is what I'm looking at. I have my little cheat sheet over there. And have it feel just dramatic and out of balance. And then there's also intermediate tempos between the stable and the unstable ones, where if you're pushing faster from stable, that gets into your serious groove zone, where there's just a lot of energy and it's really propulsive. Like Billie Jean from Michael Jackson gets into this zone. And then if you pull back from stable, it gets into this swaggering zone, and Walk This Way by Aerosmith sits in that zone. So I feel like there's lots of neat things to learn from this. And my initial experiments along those lines, I told people about it on my Monday question and answer stream, and people found it very interesting. And a guy named Bo Denarius was fooling around with equations and things and found an alternate equation that used pi a lot. And I love it when things fall into place using math constants and things, because I feel like this is very possibly the correct answer for how this works. So I've been redoing everything and redrawing my little cheat sheets and things every time I have a new set of numbers coming through. And I'm getting close to having that done. The lyric thing is a whole other thing, because I'd like to get to where I can do like songs with singing and stuff like that, rather than sitting on this one track all the time or doing like my electronic music jams all the time. We'll see. But I decided it would be very cool if you could take the words from XKCD's Upgoer 5 text editor, which is the 1,000 most common words in English. It seemed to me as if those would be very good choices for writing lyrics out of, because they're very easily recognized and easily heard and perhaps easily sung. Or at least they would be, except for that I started going through them and making a rhyming dictionary out of them, and realized that I could make a rhyming dictionary based on like the vowel sounds. Like you can go ah to e, and then ah to o, and vowel sounds go in different directions, and words that flow through the vowel sounds in an interesting way often there is much theory about. I'll just put it as that, because I can't deliver on this stuff yet, but I'm working on it really hard. I feel like I love the fact that, I should mention, all this is supported by Patreon. If you like getting these plugins every week and also this other stuff that's being done, you can support my Patreon. A bunch of people do. I feel like if it gets to these high numbers, which I consider it already to be pretty high numbers, I can justify that by doing cool enough things and sharing all of my information with you and with the world. So on that note, I will say here is BrightAmbience, and I hope you like it. It's not what I was planning to do today. I was planning to do the D-Res version of Not Just Another Dither, and I got bogged down because the different versions weren't all acting exactly the same. And I needed to make a version that worked exactly the same as monitoring. I even found a bug in monitoring. Well, it wasn't a serious one. But the new version of Not Just Another Dither with the switch between 16 and 24-bit and the D-Res control so that people can audition it and can use it for like bit crushing stuff is coming. That's likely going to be next week. And so this week I have a neat toy, BrightAmbience. If you're running it at 44.1K, There will be a nasty sort of high frequency tiz going on that's too high to hear at 96K, but it'll also give you a longer sustain than the 96K version is doing. And yeah, blast from the past, crazy weird plugin. I hope you like it. And I will see some of you folks on Monday, and I'll talk to you folks later. Bye-bye.